the other song.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
FF episode 2033, and Mike Matthews with
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Located somewhere in Podcastro Valley. Today, the last place on earth. It's Mike Matthews at Cafe Anyway. And I gotta say, it's worth telling you that it's good to get outside and breathe the fresh air. It's a beautiful day in Podcastro Valleyton. And you can see the way I am rhyming. What the heck?
Mike's Daily Podcast.
I have gotten lost with my rhyming scheme here. It's a beautiful day, though. So,
Mike's
you should try
Daily
to get outside
Podcast
and avoid people. And remember that as long as you have faith, you'll get through this. Somebody told me that today. I have to have faith. Faith. When I think of faith, I sometimes think of the congregation that sings, softly whispering, I love you. Da, da, da. I can't think of the song now. Shoot. It was stuck in my head, this song by the congregation in the late 60s. That was their only hit. And maybe it'll come to me later. But here's what I wanted to tell you today is herd immunity. Someone was talking about herd immunity in Sweden. That the reason why the Swedish people are out and about is because they have herd immunity. And yet, at the same time, as soon as you hear that, you hear a million scientists saying, no, that's not how it works. I don't know. All I am going to tell you is that I was with a herd in the podcast picture. You can see there's like a herd mentality there, and see it at mikesdailypodcast.com. So.
And here's today's podcast picture.
That's what it is. Over there at what's called Ukraina. Ukraina is the name of it. It's this place above the Hayward Hills. There was a Ukrainian guy by the name of, I forgot his name. Darn, I should Google it now as I am talking to you. But he was this very famous person in Hayward who he had this beautiful house up there. It's a Basil and I went there. We did not get to go though yesterday because of, he can't walk anymore. So we have to be and he's older, and we have to be very careful with the way we travel with him. Let's see. Here we go. Father Agapius Honcharenko. He was a Ukrainian patriot and the exiled Orthodox priest. His wife Albina, maybe? Honcharenko. They lived there above Hayward. So Basil and I, we walked everywhere in the Bay Area. And we went to this area twice. And it's you get an amazing view of the bay. And hardly anybody goes there, so you're pretty much all alone. You actually see where they are buried, Agapius and Albina. So he apparently was from the Ukraine, and we're talking, he died over 100 years ago. Just about, around 1915 or so. So he was buried there. He actually did some writing for the Alaska Herald, and he published the first American newspaper in Russian and Ukrainian languages. He also was, I believe I read in somewhere that he was friends with Horace Greeley and the guy Seward, that he knew Seward, the guy who Senator Seward. I gotta look that up too. The guy who was behind Alaska. sorry, I don't know my entire. Well, there is Seward, Alaska. And it was the senator. Shoot. Looking this stuff up while I'm trying to do my podcast is very annoying. Sorry about that. They called it Seward's Folly, Alaska. William H. Seward, thank you. Were you screaming at the whole time as I was trying to look that up? The United States Secretary of State from 1861 to 1868. Ah, he was a Secretary of State. Oh, and he earlier was the governor of New York, and he was a senator, determined opponent of the spread of slavery in the years leading up to the American Civil War, prominent figure in the Republican Party in its formative years. And he was praised for his work on the behalf of the Union as Secretary of State during the Civil War. Okay. Interesting. So, yes, back to this interesting place, Ukraine, which is above Hayward, which nobody knows about, basically. Yeah, so he was an amazing person, apparently, this priest. His wife died before him, but they are both buried above Hayward. He published political literature, which was smuggled into Tsarist Russia. He was a scholar, humanitarian, and early champion for human rights. He was in England for a while. He was put in a prison by the church. I guess the Greek Orthodox Church? Yeah. He was an Orthodox priest, and he had criticized the church. So they put him in prison. He snuck out dressed as a Turk. This is like on his Wikipedia page. So see all this history, and you know what? This is what I'm just telling you, is there is history under your nose. You never know. And there I was on a nice little walk with my lovely lady friend, and suddenly there was all this history for us. And it was just fantastic. You go up there, there's a big, what's a State Department of Parks and Recreation historical landmark plaque that's put on this beautiful big rock that you can read all this about. So things to see. I guess a little bit of a travel podcast for you today. But also just saying you need to get out, because that's what I did yesterday. And was there anyone around? No, not a dang soul. It was nice, and I was now, meanwhile, we got our vice president, who is self-isolating after an aide tested positive for the coronavirus last week, joining 3 of the nation's top scientists in taking protective steps after possible exposure. As we go outside a cafe anyway, where we bring you Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in Podcastro Valentino today. An administrative official said Pence was voluntarily keeping his distance from other people in line with guidance from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. He has repeatedly tested negative for COVID-19 since his exposure, but he was following the advice of medical officials. And don't forget, we had the guy in England, the Prime Minister, who actually had the coronavirus, but he survived. So let's not all freak out. However, Steve Mnuchin was recently saying that, that we can be rebounding, but at the same time, there are scientists warning the more people we allow out and the more we try and ramp up business, we're going to have more cases. Texas health officials report more than 1,000 new cases of coronavirus and 39 additional deaths due to COVID-19. Texas Department of State Health Services on Sunday reported a total of close to 39,000 confirmed cases. The true numbers are likely higher because many people have not been tested, and studies suggest people can be infected and not feel sick. That's the thing about all this. So, and then Arkansas, their coronavirus cases surpassed 4,000, and there have been 91 deaths in that state. But what is this? A California contractor, a construction firm, has earned an $8 million bonus for early completion of a highway overpass project. Myers & Sons Construction. A newly completed $37 million rebuild of the Alamany Boulevard overpass on Highway 101 in San Francisco. It's a Sacramento company. The California Department of Transportation, or CalDump, CDT, I guess, offered a bonus of $1 million for every day Myers finished job ahead of the 18-day schedule. Okay, and now we'll find out all the things they did to cut the to get it done fast, and that there's going to be all these problems. Isn't that what happened with the bridge? That Oakland Bridge, there's all these issues. Under 1% of Major League Baseball employees test positive for the virus antibodies. The illness caused by the new coronavirus, the small number of positive tests, was positive news for a sport pushing ahead with plans to start its delayed season. So, what do you think? You can call me 336MM Daily. 3 + 3 = 6. MM is in Mike Matthews. Daily is in what this podcast has been now for a couple of days. Tennis courts, golf courses are reopening in England. Here in Podcastro Valley, you can play golf now. I talked to my mom today on Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all you moms, by the way. You're amazing. You have completely surpassed any heroes that I know of. You are the best. You can do anything, and you're an inspiration. And thank you. From my heart. Yeah, no coronavirus could stop you, in my opinion. You can just take it all, just survive it. But at the same time, please wear a mask, right? These days we're not out of the woods yet. So just be careful. That's all I'm saying. But yes, congratulations to you. Happy Mother's Day. So I called my mom to tell her Happy Mom Day. And she said that in Florida, they are now allowing you to go onto the beach. You can actually, in Daytona Beach, you used to be able to drive on the beach. Then they stopped it. Now you can go back on the beach. So she said, and you can get out of your car. It used to be you could go, they wouldn't let you out of your car. You could go to the beach, but you couldn't leave. Now you can actually sit outside, but they've got these little designated poles so that you have to be, far enough away from each other. And let's see, I know you want me to stop talking about the coronavirus. Okay, I think I will. I think I'm done. Yeah, I'm just clicking off all the news stories that have to do with the coronavirus. We all know everything about it. We hear something good, then bad, then good, then bad, then good, then bad, all day, every day about the stupid coronavirus. I'm done with it. So let's talk about Damnation Alley. This was a movie that came out just shortly after Star Wars. The movie company that put it out was trying its best to compete with Star Wars. They were taking a book that had been popular in the late 60s, and they said, hey, let's make this, it's a great science fiction novel. Let's put it out as a movie. We'll compete with Star Wars. The problem was they just didn't have the right crew or the right story. It's rather depressing. It's a dystopian world. And George Peppard, who would later be in the A-Team, and he had been he was in Breakfast at Tiffany's. Lest we forget, George Peppard is in this movie. And then there's Jan Michael Vincent, who would later be an Airwolf. But he's in this movie. Oh, by the way, Jan Michael Vincent. So I'm with my dad. I know it's not a Father's Day story. This is not a Mother's Day story. This is a Father's Day story. And that's a couple weeks away. But, okay, so my dad and I used to walk around all my life. I associate sailing with my dad. My dad had a sailboat, like a 24-foot sailboat back when I was a kid. He sold it, though, as I got older. But he still liked to be around boats. So we would go usually eat somewhere near a marina and then walk around it. We would go to Santa Barbara, Ventura. Back in the day, we were in Marina del Rey, in Los Angeles. So here we are in Ventura. We used to go walk all the time in the Ventura Harbor. We did sometimes Channel Islands Harbor, but Ventura Harbor. There was this place we used to sit, and we'd walk over to it. As we walked there to this little bench we used to like to sit on, we'd walk past this one boat, and I'd look down, and I would see Michael Vincent sitting on this boat. This is a boat he had in the Ventura Harbor, and you would see him there, just sitting out there on a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday afternoon, just out there with his buddies. And after Airwolf, he gained some weight, and he wasn't quite the hot movie TV stud actor that he used to be. And, you know, I don't even know if he's still alive, but there he would. I go, Dad, there's Jan Michael Vincent. He'd be, who? Who is he? You know, Airwolf. Oh, yeah. Was Lou Gossett Jr. on Airwolf? I forget who else. No, Ernest Borgnine. How did I get those two confused? Okay. McHale's Navy. Joel McHale, by the way, in Community. He's very buff on Community, and now apparently he's going to be on this new CW DC Comics type show where he's a superhero. But I don't think he's in the whole show. He's just like at the beginning, and then he gives this superpower to Owen or Luke Wilson, one of the Wilson brothers, who gives it to his daughter, and she becomes Stargirl. But Joel McHale is so good in Community. He was fun on The Soup. He was quite... I think he still pretty much works out. He apparently was a big athlete when he was younger. But he has these very pointy ears and this impish face. So you end up with this tall, impish, elfin-like supermodel dude guy. And you know what? The women love him on Community. He's always fighting off the women on Community. And I just can't stop watching the dang Community. Is it because of Joel McHale? I don't know. There's something about him, I guess. He's rather funny. But then I'm actually more interested in watching the Chevy Chase, because it's fascinating to watch how Chevy, later in his career, basically played Chevy Chase, old Chevy Chase, played himself. Everybody basically plays themselves on Community, it seems. And Chevy is just this angry, cantankerous man, which he probably is in real life. It's just interesting to watch. Now, my lovely lady friend and I have almost finished binging on Community. And Dan Harmon apparently went on to do Rick and Morty. So I'll have to start watching that after that. But yes. So back to Damnation Alley. The one interesting thing about it, I found a couple of interesting things. First off, there's more than one interesting thing. The superimposed apocalyptic sky. So apparently a nuclear bomb goes off, the whole world is devastated and damned, as it were. And the sky they had to make look like it was full of radioactive light and such, which in the 1970s, the mid-70s, that type of special effect was not that easy to do. So they had to do all this post-production on it, and it was supposed to come out in 1976 to compete with Star Wars. It didn't come out till like 77. It took them 10 months to make all those effects. And when they released it, they had to try and compete with Star Wars, so they had to say we're better than Star Wars, basically, which Community references Star Wars quite a bit, as you probably have found if you've watched it. And the super stud, impish, elfin Joel McHale's on that. But he doesn't have a Navy, so no McHale's Navy on that. And no Ernest Borgnine, sadly. So, you've got this special Sound 360 thing that they were advertising for Damnation Alley when it came out in the mid-70s. And people were like, ooh, what's this? Sound 360, what the heck? What is this fascinating thing? So that was supposed to lure people in. But it ended up being a disaster. However, if you were in Los Angeles, I don't know how, I think I even saw this up until the 2000s. They used to have that enormous, super futuristic RV. That was the main focus, was this huge, like they're traveling the irradiated landscape in this massive spaceship-looking RV. And they had that part. I think it cost something like almost $1 million to build that. Maybe close enough, at least $750,000 to build this massive RV vehicle. And it sat there, right there on that pass that goes to the Hollywood Bowl. Is that the 101? Somewhere in that vicinity of Los Angeles, near the Universal Studios. And Hanna-Barbera used to be over there. That little section of North Hollywood, it used to sit there off the freeway, and I would see it all the time when I was living there in the San Fernando Valley. I go, oh, yeah, that's from that movie, Damnation Alley. And people would be like, who? What? What's that from? So, yeah, that little bit of history, Jan Michael Vincent. I guess a lot of my childhood comes from that dang movie. So, anyway, I found that fascinating. Okay. That's pretty much the end of my show today, everybody. I think I probably talked a little bit too much about Joel McHale, but what are you going to do? I just find it's weird. It's like, why wasn't he put in Lord of the Rings with this kind of impish elfin thing going on with it? Gosh, now I'm turning more into the character, the bald character, the Dean from Community. That guy's a hoot. Hey, look who's out here at Cafe Anyway, located somewhere in Podcastro Valley, 10, the last place on earth. Hi, Mark. It's Benita the Rodeo Queen. How's y'all doing?
It's a Disgruntled Fiddle Player, tell you what.
What?
I also find Joel McHale a bit interesting in some strange ways.
I know. What is it up with that guy? And then he got popular with the whole Tiger King thing because he was doing that after show deal. Look who else is here.
Hello, Mike. I make the delicious root beer Heston right now. Over.
Thank you. Any of you see Damnation Alley?
Nah.
No.
Nah. Okay, thank you, characters from Cafe Anyway. You can tell me what you think about all the topics we covered today at 336mm daily. 3 + 3 = 6. MM as in Mike Matthews daily, as in what this podcast has been for several days. So Ariel's going to take us out. Next show, it'll be the wonderful Madame Rootabega, Valentino, and Bison Bentley. Enjoy your week.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at mikesdailypodcast.com. Email Mike now at mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye!